Now that summer is here, you've probably noticed just how annoying wasps have become. You're having dinner outside, one lands on the rim of your can, and the whole table freezes. Someone grabs a napkin, someone takes a swat at it. And you think what everyone thinks. Tomorrow I'm buying a can of spray and this problem is over. But the spray isn't going to drive them away. It's going to bring more of them, and angrier ones. That's the mistake almost everybody makes, and there's a chemical explanation behind it that almost nobody knows. In Japan, they don't kill them. They use methods to drive wasps off, to make your patio stop being worth their time, and those methods work because they're built on how a wasp actually behaves. It all starts with one single idea, the idea that holds up the rest of this video. The wasp you see on your patio is not alone. She's the scout for a colony that can number in the hundreds, and that colony communicates through chemistry. When you crush a wasp, or when you hit her with a spray and leave her dying, you are not silencing her. You are doing the exact opposite. An injured or crushed wasp releases an alarm substance from her venom gland, and that substance works like a distress signal to the rest of the colony. This isn't some theory off the internet. The first studies proving it in common wasps date back to the 1960s, and it's been confirmed over and over since. The alarm pheromone recruits other workers, switches them into defense mode, and points them straight at the spot where the attack happened, which means straight at you. That's why swatting backfires. That's why spray, used anywhere near where they live, backfires. Without realizing it, you're sending out a chemical invitation for more of them to show up, and to show up furious. And it's why, when a wasp comes near you or lands on you, the worst thing you can do is flail and swat. Sudden movements startle her and put her on the defensive. The right move is the exact opposite of what your instinct is screaming. Stay still, keep your mouth closed, and back away slowly. A wasp that doesn't feel threatened almost never stings. Most stings happen because somebody crushed her by accident, trapped her against their skin, or swatted at her. Staying calm is, quite literally, your best defense. And this is where the Japanese approach comes in, which isn't a trick. It's a completely different way of thinking. Japanese culture has a long tradition of living alongside the insects in the garden instead of declaring war on them. The philosophy isn't to kill. The philosophy is to make your patio stop existing as far as the wasp is concerned. Take away every reason she has to come, and give her clear reasons to go somewhere else. You don't fight her. You make her lose interest. And once you understand that, you stop battling a wasp and you start managing a space. Here's how it's done, step by step. The first step is the most boring one and the most important one, and it's understanding why the wasp is at your table specifically. She isn't there by chance. She's there because your patio is offering exactly what she needs at that time of year. And here's a detail almost nobody knows. A wasp's diet changes with the season. Through spring and most of the summer, the workers hunt protein, other insects, scraps of meat to feed the larvae back at the nest. But in late summer, when the queen stops laying eggs and there are barely any larvae left to feed, the workers lose their usual sugar supply and go wild for anything sweet. That's the moment they start diving at your soda, your fruit, your ice cream. The wasp that pesters you in September is a hungry, disoriented wasp. So the first method, the one that costs you nothing, is cutting off the supply. Cover your drinks. Don't leave open cans, sitting in the sun. Pick up fallen fruit. Clean up food, scraps the moment you're done, and keep the food waste bin sealed and well away from the table. The mistake almost everyone makes here is doing it halfway. You put the food away, but you leave that half-full can of beer sitting on the edge of the table all afternoon. To a wasp, that might as well be a flashing sign. And there's a specific danger worth knowing about. A wasp can crawl inside a can or an opaque cup without you seeing her, and if you take a drink without looking, you risk a sting inside your mouth or throat. That's one of the very few situations where a single sting is dangerous on its own, even without an allergy, because the swelling can make it hard to breathe. Simple summer rule. If you've left a sweet drink outdoors, check it before you take another sip, or better yet, cover it, or use a cup with a lid. And keep that seasonal double diet in mind. In spring, they'll circle you if there's meat, cured ham, or fish on the table, because they're after protein for the larvae. By late summer, the magnet is anything sweet. Adjust what you protect depending on the time of year, and you've shut the pantry door on them in both seasons. Take away the protein in spring and the sugar in summer, and you've removed about 90% of the reasons they had to come near you. And if you're already finding this useful, hit subscribe, because what's coming next is where the real difference gets made. The second reason a wasp picks your patio over your neighbor's is water. Everyone forgets about it, but wasps need to drink, and they need it far more when the heat sets in. They use water to cool the nest on the hottest days and to thin out their food. And there's another reason almost nobody knows about. That gray, papery-looking nest is made, quite literally, of paper. Wasps build it by chewing wood fibers from a fence, an old piece of furniture, a dry branch, and mixing them with their saliva and water into a pulp. So a patio with easy water and old wood lying around is, to a founding queen, the perfect building site. If there's an easy water source on your patio, a saucer under a flower pot that's always sitting full, the dog's bowl, a forgotten bucket, standing water in a decorative dish, you're setting the table for them without realizing it. Empty out anything holding, standing water, fix the dripping tap, and if you keep a bird bath or a pet's water bowl, move it as far as you can from where you sit. It's free. It's just a matter of looking at your patio the way a wasp would, and it drops their interest in your space immediately. On to the third method, and this is where the science really lands on your side. So far, we've taken away their reasons to come. Now we're going to give them an active reason to leave: smell. And there's no folklore here. There's an actual study. In 2013, the scientific journal Pest Management Science published research that field-tested 21 essential oils on wasps using baited traps to see which ones genuinely repelled them. The result was very clear. 17 of those oils showed a significant repellent effect, and one specific blend of 3, clove, geranium, and lemongrass in equal parts, completely blocked the workers from being drawn to the bait. Completely. The compounds doing the work have names: eugenol from clove, citral from lemongrass, geraniol from geranium. These aren't pleasant scents that simply bother a wasp. They're molecules her antennae read as a hard no. In fact, in that study, the researchers directly measured how the wasp's antennae responded to each compound. So this isn't a hunch. Their sensory system genuinely reacts to these substances. Clove on its own, in that same study, already cut visits dramatically. And those 3 weren't the only ones that worked. Out of the 21 oils tested, 17 delivered, among them peppermint, spearmint, and lavender. That gives you room to work with whatever you can get your hands on. But the star, the combination that shut the attraction down completely, was that blend of 3: clove, geranium, and lemongrass. So how do you actually use it? Mix a few drops of clove oil, a few of geranium, and a few of lemongrass into a spray bottle with water and a small squirt of dish soap, which helps the oil disperse instead of just floating on top. Then spray the places wasps like to patrol or start a nest: the underside of your patio roof, the corners, window frames, cracks, the gaps under the eaves. You can also soak a few cotton balls and tuck them into those corners. It costs a few dollars and lasts you weeks. But watch out for the classic mistake. This is not permanent magic. Essential oil evaporates, especially in heat and direct sun, so you have to reapply every few days for it to keep working. And one safety note: don't use it near lit candles or open flames, because these are flammable substances. By the way, all of this is part of one bigger system. If you want the complete Japanese method, with all the secrets for keeping a home that's more organized, cleaner, and safer, the book is linked in the description of this video and on the channel. It's there if you want it. Moving on. The fourth method goes after the problem at the root, in the most literal sense. It stops the wasp from building her house next to yours. To get this one, you have to understand how a nest begins, because it's fascinating and because it hands you the exact window in which to act. That enormous nest you see in August started with a single wasp. In early spring, one lone queen who spent the winter hibernating comes out of hiding, finds a sheltered spot, builds a tiny nest about the size of a walnut, and lays her first eggs. Through those first weeks, she is vulnerable and completely alone. There are no workers yet. Only once that first generation hatches does the colony really start to grow. That's why spring is your golden window. Take away the places she can find a nest before she gets going, and there's no nest to deal with at all. She loves sheltered cavities. The inside of a roller-blind housing, a hole in the wall, the space under an eave, a crack in a window frame, an electrical box, an unused drain pipe. Seal those gaps before the season starts, and that queen goes somewhere else, and you've spared yourself the entire colony in one move. Go over the exterior wall and the patio looking for cracks and gaps, and seal them with caulk or silicone. Check your window screens for tears. Close up the holes where cables come through. It costs very little, and it's about the highest return thing you can do. The usual mistake is trying this in the middle of July, when the nest is already built and full. At that point, sealing the gap isn't just too late. It can trap the wasps inside and push them into the inside of your house. This gets done in spring or in winter when the colony is no longer active. The fifth method is a supporting one, and it's worth being honest about how far it goes. This is about plants and smoke. Certain plants contain the same compounds we saw in the oils: spearmint, peppermint, scented geranium, citronella, wormwood. Keeping them in pots around where you sit does help, but the effect is modest. A living plant releases far less aroma than a concentrated oil, so think of them as backup, not as a barrier. And smoke works for a real reason. Smoke masks the pheromones wasps use to communicate, and it triggers a danger signal in them, the signal of a possible fire, which makes them pull back. It's the same principle a beekeeper uses with bees. That's why a citronella candle or a bit of smoke can clear the area for a while. But it's a temporary fix. Once the smoke is gone, they can come back. Use it for one particular dinner, not as a long-term plan. And now, right before the most important method of all, which also happens to be free. If you still haven't subscribed, this is the moment, because this last point is the one most people get wrong and the one that changes the outcome most. This method has two parts, and the key is combining them with patience. The first part is the decoy nest. Social wasps, paper wasps especially, are territorial. A queen looking for somewhere to found her colony tends to avoid a spot where another nest already appears to be established, so she doesn't wander into a rival colony's territory. The decoy idea takes advantage of that. You hang up a fake nest. You can buy one ready-made, or a simple crumpled paper bag shaped like a teardrop in a grayish color will do. And in theory, the scouting queen sees it, assumes the spot is taken, and moves on. And here's the honesty this channel owes you. The theory is real, but the evidence that it actually works is thin and inconsistent. It works better on paper wasps than on yellow jackets or hornets. It works far better if you hang it in early spring before nesting season begins, and it does absolutely nothing once there's already an established nest nearby. That said, it's so cheap and so simple that it's worth a try, as long as you're clear that it's a bet, not a guarantee. The second part of this method is the most powerful one, and the one nobody has the patience to use: time. A wasp colony is not forever. It begins in spring with a single queen, grows through the summer, peaks in late August or early September, and then it dies on its own. When autumn arrives, the colony falls apart. The workers die, the nest is abandoned, and only a few new queens survive by leaving to hibernate on their own, far from the old nest, which is never used again. Which means that nest ruining the end of your summer has a natural expiration date. If the nest isn't somewhere dangerous and it isn't right on top of you, sometimes the smartest strategy isn't to attack it, but to hold out a few weeks applying everything above while nature does the work for you. Combining deterrence with patience is, very often, what actually gets your patio back. Now for the honest part, because this channel doesn't sell you fairy tales. This system is not instant extermination. You are not going to walk out tomorrow and find the patio suddenly empty. What this method does is clearly reduce how many wasps are around and strip away their interest in your space over time. It doesn't erase them in an afternoon. Second, if you already have a large, well-established nest, especially one inside a wall or in a spot people walk past, no oil and no decoy is going to solve it. There's a different answer for that, and it's coming right now. And third, the effectiveness varies. It depends on the wasp species, the time of year, and how consistent you are. Apply one method on its own and expect miracles, and you'll be disappointed. It's the whole set, repeated, that works. And here comes the most important part of this video, the safety part. Listen closely. Everything we've covered today is about deterrence and coexistence, not about putting yourself in danger. Wasp stings hurt, But in some people, they can trigger severe allergic reactions, and a severe reaction is a genuine medical emergency. So set yourself this rule and don't break it. If anyone in your household is allergic to stings, if the nest is large, if it's inside a wall, or if it's somewhere people walk past on their way in and out, do not attempt any of this yourself. None of it. Call a professional. An expert has the equipment and the experience to remove a nest without endangering themselves or you, and that's some of the best money you'll ever spend. The methods in this video are for preventing, for deterring, and for coexisting with wasps that are only passing through. They are not for taking on an established colony. And it's worth being clear about why the whole approach here is coexistence rather than extermination, because it isn't sentimentality. Wasps, however much they annoy you at the table, play a real role in the garden. They're pollinators and, above all, they're natural predators of a long list of pests. They spend the spring hunting caterpillars, flies, and other insects that would otherwise be eating your plants and your vegetable garden. A patio with 0 wasps tends to be a patio with more of some other pest instead. That's why the smart goal isn't to wipe them out. It's to have them do their job far from where you eat. Coexistence, not war. So here, specifically, is what to do this weekend, starting with everything that costs nothing. Saturday morning, go out onto the patio and look at all of it the way a wasp would. Clear away every food source, cover the drinks, pick up fallen fruit, seal the bin properly, and get rid of every bit of standing water you find. That's free, and it already changes your afternoon. Then take the cheap step. Mix up the spray bottle with clove, geranium, and lemongrass, and treat the eaves, the corners, and the cracks, and go over them again every few days. Seal the gaps and cracks where a queen might want to move in. Hang up a decoy nest if you're early in the season, and if you have a repellent plant to hand, put it near where you sit. You start with what's free, you move up to what costs a few dollars, and you leave for the professional, the one thing that genuinely requires one, a large, established nest. And if you want the rest of the Japanese household methods at this same level of detail, they're all in the book in the description. So, to pull it all together, because the complete system is simple to remember. Don't kill wasps, because a crushed wasp calls in the others. Take away their food and their water. Put up a scent barrier using the oils science has shown will repel them. Seal the gaps before the season starts so they never even begin. Back it up with plants and smoke when you need to. And have the patience to know that the colony dies on its own come autumn. You make your patio stop existing for them, and they go off and exist somewhere else. And with that, you don't just get your patio back for one evening. You get it back for the whole rest of the summer. The dinners, the friends over, the quiet moment at the end of the day, with no swatting and no cans turned into traps. And if you think the wasp thing is interesting, wait until you see what the Japanese method does to the other insect that ruins your summer nights, the one you hear the second you turn off the light. Next week, how to stop mosquitoes getting into your house without a single plug-in device and without a single chemical. See you in the next video.